Hey guys, V-Man with the Pizza Roll Diaries, and with me today is my good friend Randy. Randy, how are we doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Ah, I'm here, man. That's about all I can say. I'm tired, but I'm here. I'm here. So it's been a while since we've chatted, man. How have you been lately?
Getting old. Doctor gives me another 10, 15, 20 years. So I don't know. I'm doing all right for an old guy.
Good deal.
Yeah, I've still got a lot of spring in my step. And,
Good deal, man.
Yeah.
Well, last time we had chatted, you guys had switched over command of the Dominion to a new captain. So, and if I'm not mistaken, you guys have done a couple of shoots since that transfer of command. Am I right?
We've done 3 shoots, but only one of them is for Dreadnought Dominion. We've got 1 episode in the can for Dreadnought Dominion, and 1 episode for Warbird Valdor, and 1 episode for Project Runabout. And we're going to release them in the reverse of that order. So Runabout comes first, and we've got that about 90% edited. We still got to get the CGI and then just tweak it a bit, and but it's coming along really nice. And Warbird Valdor, we've got a rough draft of it, and then we haven't really started on the Dreadnought Dominion yet at all. But the stories in them, while it's not one big long story that spans 3 episodes, they do connect. That's like one's a sequel and one's a sequel and a prequel or whatever, and so they've got to be released in the correct order or they won't make any sense.
So what's it like? You've taken more of a behind the camera type role on a lot of these projects. What's it been like doing that? Because as far as I've known you, you've always been kind of behind the scenes and running things. But you've taken more of a hands-on approach and not been as much in front of the camera. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, my character Denson, since I wrote the scripts, I took it easy on myself. I only gave myself 2, 3, or 4 lines in each episode, except when it came to that last episode where we did the change of command. I said, all right, this is Denson's last big hurrah. So let's pull out all the stops, and Denson got to do all the things he never got to do before. So in all those episodes, Denson never got to use the transporter. I mean, he may have, but it was never on screen, So Denson just transported the crap out of that episode. He was back and forth all over the place on the transporter in that episode. Plus, we had the time weapon, which sent you forward or backwards into time, and that was poof, and you were wherever you're supposed to be. So I transported that way 2 or 3 times. So Denson just was all over the place in that episode. And then Denson got to be the one that came up with the big idea, the plan to solve the problem. He just had tons of lines, and now I know why I didn't give myself so many lines before. It's a lot of work, and a lot of pressure to get it right,
Yeah, it's on one side, it's nice to see you on screen to be like, man, that's cool. I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, and it's kind of on one side a dream come true because you're like, man, that's really cool to see you get to do all these things. But then the flip side of the coin, you're like, oh man, it's a lot of work. I don't know if I want to do all that. It's a lot of pressure. But it was nice to be able to see you in more of the action. And the thing that was really cool about that was, in my mind. And this stems back from when I kind of first met you and Gary, is I always kind of pictured you as kind of the tag team of the fan film world. You guys hold the tag team belts, and you guys kind of go out that way, tag teaming until the very end, and I loved it, and seeing you guys in the dress uniforms that you guys had created for yourselves. I thought they looked very sharp on you guys. In fact, I used the thumbnail that I'll be using for this video is of you in your dress uniform, because I thought that looked so slick, because we've seen you a million times in the TOS uniform, and I almost used the one of you as the vice president in your bow tie, because I thought that was so slick. But I thought for this one, I thought I'll use the dress uniform that you guys had created, because you just look so slick in that, and I thought that was a wonderful use of the Into Darkness uniforms that had come out.
In the next Dreadnought Dominion, I get to wear a Mirror Universe shirt. So after that, we'll just have a whole collection, the mini shirts of Denson. It's just we got the 2 or 3 different eras of the regular show, and then the Mirror Universe, and then some civvies and all kinds of stuff.
The only one I think that you and I won't be able to wear are the Mirror Universe crop tops. I think that's where you and I will have to draw the line.
I don't think I would work in a wraparound either.
See, I have the red wraparound that I had made for me that I thought would look pretty cool in the Phantom. Because I thought, well, that's because I saw someone cosplaying in a red wraparound, and I thought that looks pretty cool. I'll have one made for me, and I did. And I can tell you, no, they don't look very. It's unless you have the body shape for it, they don't look good. To me, I look like I'm one of the Fruit of the Loom people. It's very shapely. So no, I don't recommend them.
You become unwrapped at any moment.
Yeah.
It's like a spring sound.
Yeah, it's very annoying, because you've been the wrong way and it's just unwrapped, and then you're just like it's not very cool. It's not. So you guys, besides Dreadnought Dominion, you still had your hands, like you said, Warbird Valdor, and then the other series, the one with your Runabout series. You guys are still in the process of working on those shows. What can you tell us about, without spoiling too much, what can you tell us about those 2 shows that isn't already out there, spoiled away? What are you guys exactly, what tidbits can you tell us?
Okay, well, the Runabout episode starts off right where the last one ended, or maybe a couple of weeks later. And in the last episode, when it ended, they had the Kataka device that allowed you to go through dimensions in time and space, almost like the TARDIS, except it's just a little bitty device. And anyway, so they had that, and they had it in their hold, and they were going to take it to the Department of Temporal Investigations. And so this one picks up with them delivering it to the Department of the DTI. And so when they get there, something happens to the Kataka device, and it gets stolen from them. And it gets stolen, actually. I shouldn't tell all this much about it, but it ends up with Warbird Valdor. They get a hold of it. Then they have a run-in with the Dreadnought Dominion, and that sort of spans, both episodes. There's even a couple of scenes that get repeated, in both episodes. So in case you didn't see them in the right order or something, you wouldn't be totally lost. Mm-hmm. And then it picks up in the 3rd episode with the Dreadnought Dominion getting the device, and they end up getting not only transported to a different time and place, but to a different universe, and like the Mirror Universe. And their episode is them trying to get back out of the Mirror Universe, get back home to their regular universe, the Prime Universe. Mm-hmm. So in a nutshell, that's the basis of the 3 episodes.
So getting to write for essentially 3 different shows, what's that like for, because most people, they can barely handle focusing on one show with multiple characters, and but it's very difficult to focus on 3 different storylines through shows and whatnot. What can you tell us about your experience handling three different types of shows and focal points, basically, because that's essentially what you're doing is you're looking at something through different spotlights and whatnot.
As a matter of fact, I wrote one scene almost twice where from the Romulan point of view, the Federation is just a bunch of goody two shoes, putting their nose in everybody's business and meddling where they don't belong, and they're jerks, and they're racists, against the Romulans, and they say mean, nasty things, and then we did the same scene, but I had the Federation say, the sort of professional sort of things that they would say, and nobody wanted to play it that way. I thought it was cool. I thought it was clever and cool, and I really was excited about it. And it was like, well, we don't want to say those things. Okay, let's just do it the nice way on both versions. Whatever.
Well, and that's it. It's sometimes I've kind of felt that sometimes when you write a scene, you kind of have to coax the actors into, hey, look at the vision that I have and see the bigger picture of the story, because this is what we're trying to tell. So sometimes you have to do something you normally wouldn't, or something you're not necessarily 100% comfortable with, because in the grand scheme of the picture, it helps the audience jump on board for what we're trying to do. And once you do that, like then they see where you're going to, because nobody wants to be the bad guy in a story, or nobody wants to do the uncomfortable thing. But I mean, sometimes that's how you tell good drama in stories. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how you tell good drama. I mean, it's
these Federation people, they're just used to being the good guys, and
Yep.
they just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Be jerks.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and especially when it's seen through the lens of like the Romulans or somebody else, and they're like, this is how we see it. I mean, you can look at it one way and be like, oh, this is misinterpreted as this way, and those type of conversations would be so fun to see, especially how it's misinterpreted from another alien race's perspective. It seems like it would be. Go ahead.
The way I look at Warbird Valdor is, it's almost like the premise is this: what if on Romulus and Remus and their planets, they have their own Star Trek show that that came out in 1966, and they had their own version of Star Trek. Star Trek doesn't exist. They had their show. That's the equivalent of Star Trek. It would be their ships flying around, and Federation would be the bad guys, and everything that they did would be understood. They understand why they're doing things the way they do it, so they have a reason for that. And actually, I just recently I had it explained to me by one of our resident Romulan experts. That the Romulans had been separated from the Vulcans for like 1,000 years. And during that 1,000 years, I don't know if it was the Vulcans, but somebody was chasing them all around the galaxy, beating their butts every chance they got. And they got an attitude after going through all that. And that's why they're the way they are. That's why they're so, paranoid and stuff,
That's probably would explain why they're so like closed off from everybody. Like, don't come in, leave us alone. Yeah. That would explain a lot of and that, like, looking at things from like another culture's perspective, like take the trouble with tribbles for, the ending of that. Although it's funny from our perspective, because we beam a shitload of tribbles over to the Klingon ships. Like, just look at it from their perspective, where they're leaving the area and all of a sudden we beam what they would see an ecological menace over to their ships. And then, they're multiplying tribbles, and they're like, how do we get rid of this, this menace? And that would just piss them off even more. We look at it from but oh man, that's a war starter right there. It's like, it's funny, but at the same point, it's like, well, but the other side of the coin, that's an interesting story to be like, those sons of bitches, Federation, screw them. It's an interesting story to tell if one were so inclined. But yeah. That's what I find kind of interesting about what you guys propose with looking at things from their perspectives. It's interesting. I like it. So one thing that's always interested me ever since you guys had proposed making it, how fun is it to get to write for the Runabout? Because every time I see those pictures, I'm giddy like a schoolgirl. I'm like, because it's so cool. Because nobody has one. I mean, we see the shuttlecrafts at Neutral Zone or the shuttlecraft at Warp 66. But nobody has just a full blown shuttlecraft like that. It's a rarity to have something like that. How cool is it to get to write for a shuttlecraft?
Well, one thing I thought was fun was that you don't see shuttles that much, and when you do see shuttles, they're the smaller little boxy shuttles. Gary says that they have these shuttles in some of the movies and whatnot, but I don't remember ever seeing them. And the thing is, this is not like just you take it off the ship, you go to another planet, you come back and you put it in the shuttle bay. This is a full-time ship that's in operation full-time with a full-time crew, but it's very, very small. So we have a crew. The total crew of the shuttlecraft is 4, and so one of the interesting things and fun things was that I had to come up with, what are you going to do with a crew of 4? So what I did was I combined them. Everybody pulls double duty. So the captain is also the pilot, and the second in command is the navigator, and the doctor is also the science officer, and the weapons officer is also the engineer. So I figured, weapons, that's, tough guy and a tough job lifting heavy things and, welding. I know women can do it. Women can do it easily. No problem at all. But you just tend to think of big guys, big burly guys. So we've got Sergei Yuzakov, who's a great big fellow. He's doing that. And then we had the wonderful Cole Lanson as doctor / science officer, and Beth as the captain / pilot, and another guy whose name escapes me right at this second. So anyway, that was fun coming up with what do these 4 people that are the total crew of the ship do?
So with how many shows do you expect this to go? Like with Dreadnought Dominion, you guys have been doing this for 10 years, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think? How far do you expect Warbird Valdor to go on, or the shuttlecraft one to go? Do you think it'll be just the same, or is it something that you guys think it'll be just like a couple episodes and kind of couple and done? Like, is there a certain amount that you guys see going and then being like, okay, we're kind of done, or is it something you kind of want to push it just like Dreadnought Dominion, or is there a certain amount of episodes you guys expect Dreadnought Dominion to go, or is there a certain amount, like is the sky the limit?
Well, right now, the Project Runabout set is in Gary's basement. So theoretically, if he hired or found people to be his actors that were local to him up in Ohio, since he owns the studio, he could do it once a month or something if he wanted to. That's entirely up to him. Right now, though, our 2 guys that are in the crew and the cast are from the Charlotte area. So it's such a long drive up there. It's like a 10-hour drive. So we're only doing it once a year. And but we could do it more often. He just needs more
local people.
More local people. All of them, really. Even I probably wouldn't go up there more than once or twice a year.
Well, I know Warp 66, that's local to me, is I think 5.5 hours. And even I get there like maybe once every 2 years or so. Like it's when you start doing those long drives, it becomes like, all right, guys, this is the family trip. This, I mean, it gets to be long. That was one of the benefits of working with the people, here at my work, like shooting on the weekends or something, like doing, hey, we're going to do a shoot, as an away mission, or we're going to do a landing party here. Or, hey, we're going to shoot green screen this week. It's like, if you don't have local talent, or people that you can pull from, your friends, like that's why, it's nice to have your friends locally that you can shoot with. Otherwise then it becomes that, hey, we do have to travel long distance. And then if someone doesn't show up, you're like, oh shit, what do we do now? It becomes kind of an ordeal there.
Well, runabout. This is only the second episode that we're editing right now. So the first episode was, let's just see how this works, and we learned some stuff. Like Gary had some like purple windows in the front of the ship, and we didn't realize that there was going to put purple light on their faces as they sit there in the captain's seat. They just got this purple light on their faces, and I spent hours trying to get that purple out of Beth's face, and it was just no doing it because it was just the light that was in the room. And now we know. Turn that light off. Use your white lights, please.
Mm-hmm.
So we learned, and also the first time, we're like, how's this going to go over? How's it going to work? And are people going to like it and all that? And it turned out people like it pretty good. Of course, it didn't hurt any that we filmed on the Yorktown. That was so awesome getting to do that, and it's pretty fun to watch. I think, and it seems to be because it's getting good views. Now the second episode. Let's see. The second episode. What do? We go to a planet on the second one and walk around, and it's in a state park with a lot of like canyon walls and stuff, and they walk on this one ledge that scared the daylights out of me. It was about 3 feet wide and sloping at like a 30-degree angle, and they're just walking along on it like it was nothing. Wow. And I'm watching them from down, in a safe place,
Mm-hmm.
So we've got some really interesting and fun hiking scenes, as they leave their where they beamed in and they're trying to find something, and so we got that, and if this one goes well, I don't know. It depends. I mean, I know that we'll probably do. We have no plans to stop, but if we do go on, it'll be once a year, unless Gary wants to get some local people.
That's one of the beautiful things about doing films is you get to see all these different places that they get to shoot. Like, sometimes you get to go into these woods and see these different trails that people get to walk in, or like you said, you get to see them on ledges that, our alien environments, there's just beautiful scenery, take Josh Irwin, he's done drones flybys, in desert type scenery, that looks like alien planets, and it's wonderful to get to write and direct and edit scenes that you get to place them on the planets, and stuff that most people would never get to see, where you're like, oh no, this is my backyard, or oh no, this is down the street where we had to get this pickup shot and get the, and it's fun, to see the movie magic. You having edited several films on several different, a wide variety of projects. You, more than most people, have had your hands in, those type of things. As an editor, what's been a challenge for you getting to edit some of these things, getting to make these films? Because without people like you, we wouldn't have the films we have. We would just have raw footage of people wandering around and dehydrating themselves in Star Trek outfits, falling over with their phasers in hand, but you are the people that make the magic.
When you get these new people that has never done it before, and you say, send me some footage of you talking, like you're talking on a view screen, and they send you something that was shot in portrait mode, and you've got to put that on a screen that's landscape mode.
It's like they've never. It's like they've never seen Star Trek, and they're like, this looks just perfect. And you're like, have you ever fucking seen Star Trek? Does this look like the view screen? Like, what are you thinking, dude? That makes my teeth itch too, dude. I get it.
There's a whole group of people that just don't understand that you can turn your phone this way before you shoot. Believe it or not. But when they shoot this way, portrait, and then you've got to like stretch it out to fill that horizontal screen, but that compresses it this way, so you get like this much of their face because they only gave you so much width to work with.
Yep. Yep.
Gee whiz, that's a challenge, and sometimes it's just challenges for different reasons. Like a lot of noise, to get rid of in an exterior scene, birds chirping and cars going by, things like that. And it's actually fun to me. It's like solving a puzzle. How do I make this work? Remember the scene where the Klingon is swinging his weapon and hitting the lady in the back a few episodes ago?
Yeah.
One of yours. It was.
I forget which one it was, but yeah, it was the one where we actually had two versions of that film. We had the silly version. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of fun.
I think on that one, like I love the fact that you like, because the thing I didn't want was I didn't want to put two of the same movie out. I didn't want to put one on Joey's channel and then put the same film on my channel, because it's like then you're dividing the audience.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I'll go buy two copies of the same movie if there's like a special edition, like Batman v Superman came out, and then Batman v Superman the special edition came out, and I was like, oh fuck it, I'll buy the same thing. I don't mind, it's fine. So I was like, man, let's give Joey the serious one, because Joey, this is something he can stand by, be proud of. Here you go, Joey. And then fuck it, let's go to town, because I mean, we all know the like, we had a bunch of fun making this, and we were all silly and goofy making this, and to hell with it. Like, I at this point, like, I've made 150 films. I don't care. I'm not taking myself too serious. Let's have some fun with this. So I sent you these silly songs, and you're like, hey, how about if we put these circling stars on this, and can I do this? I'm like, go to town, dude. You do what you do, man. Like, I love it. Let's do it. And I loved your choices on what you did, and it was such a great. I mean, we don't have millions of views like some people, but I'm like, man, it makes my kid laugh, so I'm happy. I mean,
that was fun. That was really, really fun. Both of them were fun, but that's for different reasons,
Yeah, well, I mean, what type of, I mean, anyone that critiques that film, it's like, look, dude, we literally have X's drawn over the dead, red shirt's eyes. I mean, how can you critique that film? We're basically a Looney Tunes Star Trek fan film. How can you critique us,
And when he shot the lady to get her out of her misery, instead of a laser phaser sound, in fact, we use a fart.
Yeah. I mean, how can you be mad at that? It's like it's such a fun film. It's great. I love that, because like stuff like that you get to just tell your friend, like, hey man, go to town. Like, make it your own, dude. Like, there is no. You will not be told no on any of this stuff. Just have fun. Because I don't think I told you no on anything. You're like, hey, can we do this? I was like, yep. As long as you do this, and this, I don't care what you do. And it was great. I loved that. It was such a fun film. But yeah, no, you talking about them shooting on the tall, camera. It's like, oh, and it never fails when you tell me, like, make it like the view screen. And they're like, okay, no problem. What? Like, I love the lack of listening to direction, and you feel bad for asking them to do it again, because it's like, oh, all right, we'll make do. Because at this point, like, all of us, you, me, my editor Trey Narr, my Greg Mitchell, Dave Cabbage, like, all of us have dealt with everybody shooting tall. So we're just like, oh, let's put it on an L cars and we'll put buttons on the side. There we go.
Yeah. You make it look like it's on some sort of screen on a console or something.
Yep.
And
like that's
we can use it in the portrait mode and put stuff inside it. Yeah, that actually worked out pretty good.
Yeah, like we've all figured out how to work past the lack of listening. It's great.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like working out a puzzle. Just figuring out how am I going to solve this? Or how am I going to make this look decent?
See, and what's funny is like sometimes I'll shoot something and I'm like, oh, that didn't turn out like I wanted it to. Oh man, it's too dark now. I can't get the shot I wanted. Oh well, I'll just send that off to Randy. That's a Randy problem. Oh man, I hope this isn't the thing where he's like, man, fuck you, fat man. I'm not working anymore. Hell with you. But you guys are always so great. I love the fact that whenever I'm like, hey man, can you help me out? You're like, oh yeah, I'll get you, man. It's cool. Like you guys honestly are the people that keep fan films going, because you guys, like, the generosity of spirit and the creativity you guys come up with of, hey, I can't do this, but how about we try this? And it's just like you guys really create a lot of wonderful looking stuff. That and the CGI people, I mean, it's just like, wow, and thinking like 20, 30 years ago, we were working with, ships on a string, just, I mean, we've come a long way. It's wonderful.
Yeah, the technology and stuff today has just opened it up where anybody, literally almost anybody with anything that'll record video, can make a film.
Yeah, you get Blender and you start you if you take the time and you have the time to sit and learn it. Like I'll be honest, like I don't have the patience, I don't have the skill, I'm like don't have the time. Like I leave that to people more talented than I am. Just like editing, I tried to give my hand at doing that, and I was like, I'm not an editor. Like I know what looks good, I know what I want in a film, but I'm not an editor. I can't do that. I can't do it. You and Greg and Trainar and Dave, and like I can't do those things. So you guys are way more talented than I am. You guys, I can't do that. I can give you guys, and you guys make me look better than I actually am. So a lot of credit there. A lot of credit. But so
yeah. So there's a lot of guys out there that are way better than I am too. But it's fun trying and getting better and better all the time.
Well, and that's the point of doing the fan films, is like you try your hand at something and you see what works and what doesn't. Because there was a time I never wanted to direct nothing, never wanted to write nothing, but it's like you try your hand and then you kind of fail upwards because you lack of options. You're like, oh, I don't have an editor. Let me try this, or I don't have let me write this, and then you gradually get better, hopefully, but you and Gary have made, hell, like I said, it's been 10 years that that you guys have taken over and have done really good stuff. What is your favorite episode of Dreadnought Dominion? If you could single it down to one to show off and be like, this is my pride and joy, this is what I love the most, this is it. This is Dreadnought Dominion in a nutshell. Which one is your favorite episode and why?
I don't think I could pick one, but I'll tell you which one that I always like. If somebody has never heard of my show, and I say, yeah, I make a fan film, and they say, oh, come on, you're kidding. No, really. Here's a link, and I want to send them one episode to watch. Generally, I will send them The More Things Change, and it's mainly because, well, the acting is pretty good, the story is pretty good, and the CGI is mwah. At the beginning of that episode, we could, that's the one where we come across the Russian the Russian, what do you call them? Their spaceships. The Russian,
right.
The one with they're funny looking, and it has a couple of frozen Russians in it. And but at the beginning of that episode, when we first come across it, we set it up. What's that thing out there? And then it looks like it was made back in the 1960s on Earth, Well, how in the heck did it get all the way out here? And then we go to opening credits, and when we come back, there's the Dominion, and in the foreground, in front of the Dominion, is the Russian vessel, and he did such an awesome job on that. He found a great model of the Russian vessel, and just the lighting and everything. It's to me, it's like an epic shot. Also, in that episode, there's a scene where we bring that vessel, the Russian vessel, onto our dock, onto our shuttle bay, and there's a tractor beam located below the shuttle bay, right below the door. Like if this is the door to the shuttle bay, it's right here. So it's right in the center underneath. And that pulls the vessel to the shuttle bay. But I'm like, well, that's fine. But what about putting it in the shuttle bay? Because that tractor beam can't go back behind
it needs something to grab onto. Yeah.
Yeah, something is in the way there. It can't go backwards. It can only bring it up to the door. So I came up with the idea of having two smaller beams in the ceiling of the shuttle bay that could go out and take whatever object it was and bring it back into the shuttle bay and set it down. And that sequence is killer. I'm so proud of that sequence, partly because it looks awesome, partly because I came up with the idea. And there's a lot of neat stuff like that in that episode that I think people will be impressed by.
You talk about you talk about the shot of the ship. It to me it's reminiscent of the Space Siege shot where you see Khan's ship, and to me it's one of those, like, you look at that shot, you know exactly what you're looking at. You're like, oh, that's very cool, because they use stock footage all the time, but you couldn't use that a lot because it's very specific, and it's the same thing with this. It's like you can't use this shot. I mean, you can use the Dreadnought Dominion flying past warp or impulse or orbiting planet, like you can, but this one, it's like, no, you know exactly what episode this is in. You can pinpoint and go, oh, that's what that is, but to me, you're right. It is kind of an iconic shot. It's kind of cool,
Yeah. So some of our best actors were in that. Tracy Frank and Dara Bruton, and we had the two honest to God Russians, for crying out loud, to play the Russians. I mean, they're American citizens. Don't get me wrong. They've been here. Sergei came to the United States when he was 2 years old, and his parents were, Russians, fully Russians. The other guy, Vlad, he was the guy who survived. Sergei was the one who died. The other guys that survived, I don't know his backstory, but I know that he's like from that same community as Serge. So can you do a Russian accent? Can I do a Russian accent? Of course I can do a Russian accent, and so we had Dara Bruton was playing a Russian, but she's not, but she did a good accent. But you ever think you did a good accent? Like, I think I've got a pretty decent British accent. And then I get around somebody that actually is British, and they just laugh at me, Yeah. So that's kind of the way it was with Dara. She has a fantastic Russian accent until she gets around somebody that's actually Russian. And they're like, no, no. You say like this,
Kind of shows them the way it is, huh?
Yeah. So between the Russians and our awesome actors and the CGI and everything, that's the one that I give to send somebody a link for, if I can only send them one link. If it's my favorite, I don't know. Another one that's one of my favorites is We Are Many. With the where the planet has this entity that covers the whole planet. It's one living thing that's like it's like spores, and it dissolves you and takes you into it, and it retains your memories and your intellect and everything, and it's just been there for like millions of years, getting smarter and smarter and smarter, but it's stuck on that planet. until we kind of give it a way off. And but before it can get off the planet, it's it's on a moon that its orbit is deteriorating into the planet. So that's a neat episode. I think I'm really proud of that one.
I think you guys, have had a lot of films have tried to duplicate the feel of TOS, and you and Gary have successfully duplicated that feel, that vibe, while maintaining your own classic characters and originality. Because again, like you guys have had Romulans, you guys have touched base on some core elements of Star Trek, but you guys have had, hey, what story do we want to tell? What's just a real weird kooky thing, and let's go do it. Let's go tell it. And no matter how kind of like, well, this might be a little far-fetched, but you know what? How can we make this happen? In a way that in the 1960s, it might sound far-fetched from today's standards, but they were like, you know what? Let's go there. Let's do this. And it's good because a lot of people today take themselves way too seriously. They're too dark or they're too, angst-ridden. But you guys are like, no, let's have fun with this. Let's tell a real cool story that has some oomph behind it. And that's true to the spirit of what Star Trek was about, because it was just about adventure and what's out there. And it's just kind of like looking at space going, the wide-eyed, wow, what is this stuff about? What is this? And it is true to the spirit of Star Trek. And it's enjoyable, where a lot of people try and fail. You guys, you guys don't even have to try. It just happens naturally. And I think your love of Star Trek shines through.
Yeah, and I don't mean to sound like I'm bad mouthing anybody who does it, because there's absolutely room for whatever you want to do, whether you want to, whether your budget range is or whatever your story kind of, like Jose, or who has crossovers between Star Trek and The Wizard of Oz and the Planet of the Apes. And he's got all this crazy stuff going in his stories, and magical beings, wizards, and and if that's what you want to do, there's room for it. Because so what? Just do whatever you want to do, and that sort of thing. It's not our gig, but it's go for it if that's what you want to do. And your style is completely different, but there's plenty of room for whatever style you want to do. Now some people just love to do sequels and prequels and stuff like that to original Star Trek episodes, and they love having those characters from the original episodes, like was it Johnny Seven or something like that, and all these characters. They want to do something else with that character and bring them back for whatever happened to that character later. Let's come bring them back, and that's fine. We want to do that, fine, but it just isn't our thing.
Yeah,
like we got a Q continuum, a member of the Q continuum, who was a member of the crew, but he wasn't Q. He wasn't the Q. He was a Q. And we've got Romulans, but none of the Romulans whose names you would notice or remember from the show. And we've had a couple of Klingons, and we've had that's about it. The rest of our stuff, like the Vancians, thank you, by the way, are original.
Yeah.
So
you've niched out your own little corner of the Trek universe, and that's what, like, you bring up Jose. That's again, like, I would never do the Dorothy thing, because I'm like, what is this? That's wow. But that's his niche of the Star Trek universe. Like, that is, like, I know Drew, he's one of my best friends, and he loves it. He's like, dude, this is my crack. I love it, but then there's super serious, Star Trek filmmakers out there that are just so, everything's dark and brooding, and it's like, whoa, that's okay. That's their niche, and that's what I love about fan films, is like, we all get to take our creativeness and carve out a little spot in Trekdom and go do it. But and the thing that I love even more than getting to do, our little version of Trek is the fact that we've all played in each other's sandbox. It's not uncommon to see George Cayenne in a Vance film, or me in a Dreadnought Dominion film, or a Jose in an Avalon film or something, or Josh in a Alec Peters film, or something. Like, for us all to cross over if we need to, if we need a captain or something, like, we all play in each other's sandbox because we all are, if not friends, we're friendly, and I like that because it's we are one fleet, and that's what fan films should be about, is just friends helping friends, accomplish that goal. I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, the way I look at it is that every chance I get to get in front of a camera is another chance to improve, to build on my skills. And that goes for the backside of a camera too. The best way to get good at something is to do it and do it and do it and do it.
Yeah.
And so like that film we were talking about a while ago, that there were the two versions of the silly version and the serious one. That scene I did in that film is one of my favorite scenes I've ever done in anybody's film, really. I was just a civilian, retired Denson who was sitting there building his little metal model at his table, and I get a phone call and take it, and I really felt good about that scene. I felt like I was really natural and conversational, and it didn't look like I had memorized anything or was reading anything. I was just being.
You were just you. Yep. You were in the moment. Yeah.
And yeah, I couldn't have done that 10 years ago.
Well, and that's like the thing is, like, and I think the people use the term legend far too often. But I do consider people like you, people like Gary Davis, people like, Joe Sapita, people like George Cayenne, I do consider them living legends, because it's like we have paved the way for a lot of people who are coming lately to, do some of these fan films. There's a lot of things that we, have set up that they weren't doing back when we first started. A lot of the things we've done have kind of paved the way, and I love the hell out of you and Gary for what you guys have done on Dreadnought Dominion, and now with Warbird Valdor and the Shuttlecraft series you guys have. Like, I mean, you guys are continuing to this day, whether it's in front of or behind the camera, to continue to inspire people to, hey, make your Trek and make it your own, and that to me is hugely inspirational. So before I cut out, I want to thank you for coming on and BSing with me for a little bit and, hanging out. I always enjoy our chats. And I want to thank you for editing all the stuff you have for me and putting up with my mess that I send you sometimes. You're always a pleasure to chat with and talk to, man. I want to thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Same right back at you. I enjoy talking about stuff like this. I'll talk your ear out off if you give me a chance. And my wife is tired of hearing about it.
I understand that, man. I understand that. Well, we'll get you on here before too long, man. We'll get you back on when you guys release another episode or something. We'll get you on and we'll chat. We'll have you on one of the Critical Not Cynicals, and I mean, you know me, I love to talk fan films with you, and we'll get you back on Petrol Diaries before too long. All right, man.
All right.
You have a good night, man. And for all you guys watching at home, keep on geeking on, guys. Be genuine, be safe, and keep on geeking on.